All right, welcome guys. So this is Clary from Legacy Coaching, and I'm joined here with Jack from Raw Physio. We've been working together for a few years now, and I really love the way he goes about it. He's predominantly working with many people trying to get fitter, healthier, and stronger, which is I think why this works so well. So, Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on, mate. I really appreciate it. Nice to see you again amongst all this isolation. But I guess, a little bit about me. I have always been pretty active. I've, like most people, love sport. Trying to get my hands on pretty much any sort of sport when I was younger. So whether it was my primaries like swimming, rowing, rugby, but played footy, soccer, and anything in between. So I think having that kind of active background definitely led me down the sort of path that was more based on health and fitness and wellness. So subsequently studied physio at Curtin and then graduated in 2014, 2015. So I've been working since then. So it's about 5 or 6 years out now, and started up Raw Physiotherapy in the end of 2015. So, and that was really a bit of a turning point for me in my career, I guess, because I was getting a bit frustrated in terms of how I was working in clinics, but it was really difficult to get people better and self-managing effectively when you've just got a couple of 1 kilo, 2 kilo dumbbells and a bit of TheraBands.
It's tricky.
You're limited by what's around you and your environment as well. So, and my interest at that time was, pretty weightlifting heavy. So I've done certifications for Olympic weightlifting coaching and strength and conditioning coaching, because these are the kind of the real vital skills, or what people might call soft skills of coaching, that I think really translates well to kind of tie the brand of physiotherapy we use at Raw Physio. So once we started that business, it was really with the goal of trying to bridge the gap between what traditionally constitutes as physio and rehab and what actually gets people moving and getting them healthier, fitter, stronger, so that they don't actually have that uptake of healthcare either now or in the future, So those people that become sore, develop arthritis and things like this, and maybe potentially in later life, they're needing those falls prevention programs and needing that healthcare uptake, in hospitals and things like that, when realistically, if you intervene early enough and give people the right tools and education, then they don't need all of that. They just need health and fitness and strength and building really resilient, robust people. So not letting pain kind of be the end of the story, and actually just making that as a really good opportunity to educate people and to actually have them feel better, leave better, and then not actually have to spend so much time in these offices with people like me.
I love it, man. That's bang on. That's so for any of my guys, that's exactly why we work with Jack and refer to him. We want resilient, durable people. Absolutely. That's awesome. Perfect. Thanks, man. So basically the idea here is we get lots of questions sent in to us, and they apply to a lot of people. So we figured we'd make these questions available to everyone, and we'd refer to the experts, which we've got here. So the first one that we've got, so the first one we've got coming through is a bit more running specific. So obviously at the moment, with the whole isolation thing, we can't get in the gym, but people have adapted really, really well. And as part of that, we're getting out and about, we're getting some fresh air, we're going for those longer runs. Now I've had several people, and I've encountered this myself, where I've gone for a long run after not doing it for a while, and I've pulled up either that day or the next couple of days after with really like a lot of tightness between my heel and my lower calf. Can you discuss what's sort of going on there for us and what we can do about it?
Yeah, for sure. So I commend anyone who's been taking up running. If you're not a natural runner like myself, it's nothing pretty. So I'm trying to run really early in the morning and nights when there's less people around and it's a lot darker. So you can't see me struggling along the streets.
That's when I go too. So.
So I think with running, the big thing to take into mind, if you're a bit more of a gym junkie, so someone who does a lot of resistance training, so your weights, weightlifting, push-ups, those sort of traditional exercises, and you don't really do too much running, you might be feeling what you're experiencing and what you're describing there, which is that kind of between the bottom of your heel and then up into your calf, that little gap there. That's kind of roughly where your Achilles tendon will be. So that's at the back of your heel, so to speak, actually. And then you've got the front as well. So more towards the front ankle, and some people are feeling things like you might call shin splints as well. So those are both really common, what you call like overuse injuries, and they're really associated with running as well. So if we start at the back, so that's your Achilles tendon, and tendons are a type of tissue that connects your muscle to your bone. And in the lower limb, they're specifically, they treat them like springs, so like a big shock absorber that helps to kind of make things efficient. So when you start running, you'll notice that, well, actually, we scale back. When you're in the gym and you're doing something like a bicep curl or an overhead press, there's a phase where the muscle is lengthened and then it's progressively shortened. You can kind of map that, and you can kind of see it goes like, gets tighter, gets looser, gets tighter, gets looser. And that's quite controlled, and it's quite easy to be like, yeah, no, I can kind of control the speed, the intensity, and things like that. With running, it's a little bit more intense at times, especially for your joints, your bones, and tendons, because running is really that impact. And impact is really good. That's what bones love, because it teaches them to get thicker and stronger and prevents things like osteoporosis in later life. But if you're not used to it, it does tend to sneak up on you pretty quickly, and all of a sudden you can feel every joint between, your toes and your knees just starting to get a little bit achy. And it's the same thing with tendons. All of a sudden, when you're squatting or deadlifting, doing calf raise, your tendon has quite like a consistent tension, and now it's kind of doing these quick kind of pulls and pulls and pulls, which is exactly what it wants, and it's going to get stronger and fitter and better because of it, but it's going to take a little while to adapt, and you can kind of get these little tendon pains from time to time. And that's exactly the same as shin splints, just with bone. It's not used to this impact, that bone's turning over a little quicker than usual, and it's potentially developing a little bit of inflammation, a little bit of pain. So these things are nothing to be too concerned about if you get on top of it early. The best things that I could definitely recommend to people, if you're a little bit suspicious that you might be developing some shin splints or a bit of an Achilles tendon pain, is to try and get your loading right. So the first thing I do is be aware that the rest periods of between training sessions are super important. So
yeah, absolutely.
If you're going for a run on a Monday, perhaps running on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, back to back to back, is not going to give your body time to really adapt and to really get better. So we know, for example, with tendon research, we have an acute response after something that's a bit more bouncy, plyometrics included, as well as running, that you need about 24 to 36 hours for that tendon to kind of stabilize, and then to go, yeah, I'm ready to kind of kick off again. So if you're running on a Monday, you might not run again for Tuesday, even, Wednesday itself. You might start again on Thursday. So you have that good 48 hours to let your tendons actually recover and be ready to go again. That is until you're a bit more conditioned.
Of course.
And it's the same sort of thing with bones. You might find, yeah, exactly. It's just practical advice. You might find that's enough just to kind of get everything to settle down. And as you build up your load over the first 2, 4, maybe 6 or even 8 weeks, you'll find that these pains sort of just fade away into the background. But trying to intervene on them early is definitely the best thing we can advise, because it's a lot easier to adjust things early than have to do a whole lot of work in the back end to get you back to normal.
100%. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So with that then, would you sort of recommend having like a light build-up, obviously managing that workload, and are there particular sort of protocols in place for rest days, or is it really dependent on the person?
Yeah, I think like everything's going to come down to that really annoying but ever-present grey area where everyone's really different, So we tend to find, in terms of protocols are really good as a baseline, but they still probably need a bit of tweaking per person. So if you've got a relative baseline of some sort of fitness or some sort of running, cardio, then you might be able to get away with a little bit more running early on. But then some of us, for example, I've had tendon issues in the past, so I've had cranky knees and stuff. I tend to find that when I get running again, everything just aches for the first 2 weeks. I got to kind of work within that, and it might be just one run a week, and it might be a pretty slow 1 to 5K, somewhere in there. And it's just a plod. It's, you maybe got a light sweat, but you could have a conversation. And that's sort of the intensity that you want. You want to be able to have a yarn whilst you're going for a run, because that's going to say that your body's not operating at its maximum threshold, and then your tissue is going to be able to adapt over those first few weeks. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just trying to get that intensity right, and not going for a marathon run for your first run just to try and bust through it.
That's huge, because I know like a lot of us that are looking at doing this, it's probably fair to say that we've been in the gym for a while and we're used to pushing ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we go to something that we haven't practiced, it's really easy to go too hard too fast. So I think probably one thing that I've experienced is having to teach myself what an easy run is, to sort of combat 100%. That. Because I can ask someone, hey, like, I want this to be an easy run for whatever duration we might be looking at. And that could be met with a fair bit of confusion, or just, I have no idea what that actually feels like, because every time you go for a run, you really do push it. You try and, if you've set a distance, you try and go as hard as you can to get a better time.
Yeah.
And that's just not, it doesn't work that way.
No. And unfortunately, comparing apples to oranges to some degree, they're both fruit, but gym compared to your running, they're just different loads, and they're different muscles, different tissue responses as well. So you just have to go, I'm a fit person, but this is a whole new world to some degree. Jumping into you ask fit people to swim, and not all of them are going to take off straight away as well. You can be fit, but these are different specific kind of types of exercise, and they're going to take you a little while to adapt to. So I think don't be afraid to go for a walk jog. If you feel like you can't control your intensity and you're like, I tend to kind of go a bit full of the gate. So you need to maybe just go for that walk for 30 seconds, jog for 30 seconds, and just trying to kind of self-limit that intensity by having periods of walking or periods of specific rest as well. And that'll just help to cool you off a little bit more.
Yeah. So a tempo run be a good example of that.
Yeah, exactly. Tempo, you might say stuff like, even just a simple walk run. Otherwise, there's like fartlek training as well, which has got that specific types of like a building intensity. So you might have periods that are walk, jog, hard run. So you still feel like you're getting a good amount of workload in, but you might limit that. So it might be, 20% is the hard run, 40%, and then you've got that last 40% is like that walk. So you kind of got that sliding scale of intensity, and over the weeks as you get fitter and stronger and more used to it, and those niggles back off, then you can kind of build that high level intensity and kind of let that take over the workout a little bit more. So you feel like you're getting a bit more done, a bit more bang for your buck.
Perfect. That's awesome, man. So to recap for anyone there that is experiencing some shin splints and some, obviously some discomfort through their Achilles tendon. So bottom of the calf. We're looking at managing load and intensity. So not going too hard, too fast. If you can track what that is, so that you know what you're doing for next time. And what else would we say? Sort of mixing in some different techniques in there.
Yeah, mixing up that intensity a little bit, and just being nice to yourself. It's a little different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try and have those rest days, vary up the tempo, and don't be afraid of a little bit of walking in your first few runs, especially.
Perfect, absolutely. And just as a last thing in there, running surface would probably be a big one that I've encountered.
Yeah, potentially, definitely.
Yeah, I think I personally, I always pull up a little bit sore running on concrete. It's a little bit less forgiving. Would you recommend starting on a softer surface like grass?
Yeah, especially if you are what you might call someone like a joint sensitive person, where if you do those extra set of squats in the gym, if you go for a jog, you do find your knees and your ankles are a little achy. You might try and do something like a softer surface to try and reduce that initial uptake and that soreness that you're probably going to experience, which is very normal. So you might try and switch up your surface and be on the grass or using the ovals, things like that. Some people love beach running. I think it's torture, but it is good. So you could do that. Even water running and things like that, where you've got that water's obviously taking a little bit of gravity away. A bit hard unless you've got a pool at the moment, or you can get down to the beach. But just changing up that surface a little bit. And the other thing we probably get, or I get asked quite often, is shoes selection. There's been a fair bit of research on that in terms of different heel heights and materials and things like that. The only thing that seems to be consistently found is that if you wear minimalist shoes or no shoes, you have a much higher risk of bone stress injuries. So like shin splints and things like that. Everything else, I usually say just go for what's comfortable.
Yep.
If it feels good, you're probably in your body's probably adjusted to that and is probably pretty happy with it. Don't go changing up big things and expecting your body just to be like, yep, business is normal. It's going to let you know that there's going to be some things that it's a little either unhappy with, or it's going to need some time to adapt to.
Absolutely. Hang on.
Yeah. So yeah, same thing. If you manage to build up to like a 10K run on grass, don't expect to go straight onto concrete at 10K and not to feel a little bit of something potentially. Doesn't mean you will, but there's just potential there. So yeah, again, try and compare things that are even across all stages. If you change something, there's likely to be a result on the back end. Don't be afraid of that result. Just make sure you take into consideration in the future.
Beauty. Perfect. Oh, thanks a lot for that, man. I think that'll pretty much wrap up that question for today. We'll be back again pretty soon. So if you do have any questions for myself or Jack, send them through. I'll put the email down here or in the description, and we'll be tackling those as we go on.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to some questions.
Beauty. Oh, well, thanks for joining us, mate. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks, mate.